Bueno. What up, everybody? Hello. Welcome to the South Star Classroom. I am your co-host, Omar Yanad. Back in black, baby, or in white, I guess. I was gone last week. Parts unknown, ladies and gentlemen. Parts unknown, as Doc likes to do, man. He's just like, yeah, I was somewhere.
I tell you after. I just don't tell them before.
That's indeed correct, man.
You know when I'm back home.
But I wanna say I'm happy to be back, and just want to check in with everybody, man. See what's going on. Doc, I know you've got some sad news to talk about with an event that happened in Texas. But Dave, it's good to see you, brother. What's going on? I like the TP in the back.
There we go. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Things are well. I started tracking my sleep.
Hell yeah!
And I'm starting to like pay more attention to my sleep, and I've been getting really good sleep. Paying attention, I have a tracker that I wear. First time I've ever done it, and it's good. It's good. And you wake up, you can look at your data, but then the data is also reinforced by like how you feel, right?
Is this like the Aura Ring?
Huh?
Is this the Aura Ring that you're using?
Aura Ring. Yeah.
No, I'm using a Fitbit.
Okay.
Device. Yeah. So it gives me a full report, and it's interesting. You can see your REM sleep, your deep sleep, your interruptions. But
dude, it's fucking helpful, is what it is.
It's very helpful. Yeah, because sleep is really important, especially at my age. It's like sleep is tied to like bad sleep is tied to all kinds of issues like heart disease and just feeling burned out. So I'm going to become a sleep advocate.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I joke about it all the time, but while I personally think it's a bit of a kind of tongue in cheek, I am actually a nationally certified sleep expert.
Wow.
This is a real thing. I got a fucking certificate and everything. Sorry, language, Mama Toya. Watch that. But this is a real thing bequested to me by Stanford University. So I took this famous class called Sleep and Dreams, and it's at what they called at Stanford a trap class. And I think this is germane because we're actually talking about college today. So they're like classic trap classes that I'm sure you all know about, right? So like human sexuality was a big one because they're like, oh, that's going to be fun. And then it's like a ludicrously complicated biology course where it's like pre-med.
Yep.
Art history was another trap class. They're like, oh, I'm going to go learn about art. And it is just stone cold hard memorization of like thousands of years worth of art and just kicks the shit out of everybody that takes it. Sleep and Dreams was a trap class because they're like, oh, Sleep and Dreams. And it's a hardcore human biology class. Like you are learning about the intricacies of your nasal passage, your brain, sleep diseases or sleep disorders like sleep apnea, narcolepsy. Like after that, you're like, hey man, go forth and spread the good news. You're a certified sleep expert. And I'm not gonna lie, I've diagnosed apnea at least a dozen times in people. Gotten at least a dozen people onto the CPAP. They are getting ludicrous. It's like a life-changing experience. Doc, if you ain't got that CPAP, baby, get that PAP.
No, my dad uses a CPAP machine. I do not. What is this? Why are we talking about Trump? What is happening? This dude is
saying that Trump is an expert. Trump fell asleep at Madison Square Garden yesterday, dude. It was like incredibly loud, and he conked out.
Yeah, man.
It's I know a lot of businesses lost a lot of money because they had to shut down that part of the city. That was rough, but hey, I want to see San Antonio win, so let's see how this goes.
Not on this. You want to see? I want to see. Listen,
I want to see them win. I like the Knicks. I think the Knicks had a great year. But that Wemby is here. I want to see it.
Knocked Brunson down, and he needed
playoffs.
15 fouls for that. Okay,
it's the playoffs.
Like a cotton ball, and that was mean.
It's the
when
playoffs.
I meet him, I'm going to tell him that was mean.
And when you look up to 7'5", and you tell him
I don't care. Don't shut Brunson down like you on the damn playground in kindergarten.
Well,
you went too far.
So if for anybody watching this playoff basketball, if you try to bully and push because you think the dude is skinny, y'all saw what he did to Naj Reed in the Wolves Timberwolves. He caught that dude right in the face with the elbow. Hey man, I like it. Give me hard-nosed playoff hit. You know, he hitting and he had 32, 8, and 6 last night. So
we were just talking about that.
I mean, it's playoff basketball. I mean, look, all the greats, man. Ask Michael Jordan and Reggie Miller. They squared up. Ask Larry Bird, squared up. Anyway, it's what you go through. But I love Jalen Brunson. I think he's a rough rider, you know. But you was trying to push on a 7'5" dude, and it didn't work. You just got flicked off. And some more serious news, though. I can talk about hoop all day. I would love to do this as a hoop thing. I would say. So I was talking to Omar offline. I don't have all the details because it's just now happening. Are you all familiar with the Carmelo Anthony case? The two boys, Frisco, Texas, track team. There's an altercation. One gets stabbed. So what happens is the trial started it very quickly, and they got an all-white jury. And the family and legal counsel tried to fight it. And they found that boy guilty in less than 3 hours deliberated. So I don't have, like I said, I got to go back and look at all the stuff. And I'm just now seeing it come across. But yeah, I mean, but as soon as they said it was an all-white jury and they couldn't get no stops, you kind of knew what time it was. So
and you think about the timing of that jury decision coming literally like days or maybe a week after all of this, the free speech debate about Chud the Builder in, I think, Tennessee, right? And so I'm just wondering, like, how much of that, and people feeling that, like, there might be some backlash to it. And so the way that they demonstrate it is by, spending 30 minutes to basically accuse somebody of murder without a rigorous debate, right?
Yeah, man. It's man, everything that you just said, man. Like I said, I'm still trying to. Yeah, under 3 hours is just crazy. It's like
yeah, it's wild, dude. It's wild. Yep.
Yeah, but that was my check-in. I mean, that was all I had. I just was checking in on that. And yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm still reading it. I'm focusing on the episode now, but I was just making sure I didn't miss anything. So I'll throw it to Jude.
Damn, man.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And I'm like, how do you still get a all-white jury in 2026? Of course,
that's what I said. I was like, what the shit? How's that even possible?
you aim for one, you go for one,
right?
You do jury selection. You only get a certain number of strikes. So I'm not talking. Everybody, hopefully nobody feels like I'm talking down to them. I don't know if people know how the process goes. So both sides, I don't know how many strikes you get, but if I'm a lawyer for if I'm a lawyer on one side and Omar's a lawyer on one side, we do jury selection together. There's the pool. We have, let's say we each got 5 strikes. So Omar can strike people up to the X amount of people that I choose, no questions asked. I can do the same. Yeah. And it's like there's whole, I started out as pre-law, but there's whole classes and theory around how you do jury selection and how the strategies and all that stuff around it. But yeah, man. Anyway, it's unfortunate that they're gonna appeal. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Jude, how are you doing?
I'm going to Costa Rica in a few weeks.
Nice.
And that's I'm focused. That's what I'm looking forward to, because the school year is ending and there's so many things going on, and for myself, for Sid and Zach. So I'm keeping my eye on the prize to finish strong and to go to Costa Rica and get on somebody's zip line or like find an armadillo in the middle of the jungle. I don't.
You can go to El Paso for that.
I could go to El
Not
Paso.
really.
I can visit Omar again.
You got to go a little bit further into the panhandle to get armadillos. What we got over
Okay.
here is some
Javelinas.
Palaces.
Okay. I keep on getting more and more animals on my timeline, which makes me very happy. And the latest is an armadillo, and then how they go into a ball and kind of just roll themselves all over the place. I'm like, what
They're
fun.
sweet little guys. They're my friends.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's my check-in. I'm keeping my eye on the prize. Costa Rica in 3 weeks.
That's
Beautiful.
Very cool.
Beautiful. Never been there. It's on the list.
Yeah.
It is very much on the list. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have an interesting show for y'all today. So one of the things that has caught my attention recently is that there's an article talking about the shutdown, essentially, of what is an estimated 442 private nonprofit colleges and universities, which is about a quarter, like 25% of universities. We've talked a ton on the show about what's going on in education right now, the dwindling level of money in public education, what's going on in Oakland, what's going on in Texas. And we've talked a great deal about the advent of AI and even a lot about what is university going to look like in the years to come. And a couple of facts that I found out about what's happening across the country with private universities. And we're going to have a discussion about whether or not this is a good thing or not so much a good thing. So as the facts lay down, we're talking about 25% of these universities could either consolidate or close down. That affects about 670,000 students. That's 700,000 students, man. That is more than 500,000. That's a lot. There's a lot of kids. And more than 120 of these institutions are at the highest level of financial risk, meaning they're close to shutdown. So the article focused on a small college in Vermont called Sterling, but it used it as a microcosm to talk about what's going on, basically saying that, when colleges close, fewer than half of the affected students will continue their education. Many will lose credits, and a ton will never even complete their degree. Now, this is affected right now a decline of roughly 2.3. Well, what's going on? Like, where's college today? You have a decline of 2.3 million college students since 2010. God, that is a lot. Like, that's a lot of people that are no longer going to university. There's a huge falling college going rate amongst high school graduates. So high school graduates are not going to college at the rates that they used to, especially pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Demographic changes that have reduced the number of traditional college-age students for years to come. And then because of current circumstances, Bill would know, like he's commented on Trump already, there's a massive reduced level of international student enrollment, particularly because of what's going on in the United States. And for those of y'all that don't know, I've been in the college game since I was 15 years old. I would arguably say my mom is a massive expert on college admissions. I worked at the National Hispanic Institute that does a ton of work with universities. And I got to tell you, like, it's not just all about your, University of Texas's or Cal State LA's or your Stanford's. You've got a lot of universities that Latino kids and Black kids are going to that are small, offer a phenomenally kind of roast experience, especially for first generation kids. And that is being very threatened in terms of its ability to survive and its ability to thrive. But a lot of the thriving for these small universities are international students because they're paying full tuition. So St. Ed's in Austin has a huge international population paying full ride. That's a big Hispanic serving university. Trinity in San Antonio, St. Mary's out in the Bay Area, guys. Loyola Marymount in Southern California, Loyola Marymount in Maryland. Like, these are universities that traditionally serve brown kids, black kids, survive on this international student tuition, and that is going the way of the dodo. So why this matters is, a lot of these smaller colleges are in rural areas. They're mission-driven centers and often play a massive impact on the local economy. So kids will go to these places and they'll stick around in these places because it's very mission-driven, and that has a massive effect on the local economy and small business. And as Republicans talk so much about it's all about the small business, they certainly aren't acting like it. And small businesses factor into a massive component of the middle class, a massive component of the middle class in the United States, and we're seeing even that threatened. So, I want to kind of have a fruitful discussion. I know we've talked a lot on this show about college and should kids be going? Is this a worthwhile investment? And I've got my sentiments on it because I don't know if I'm a minority, but I certainly think that in talking with other friends and colleagues, even recently, about their experience in college, I would say that my experience was radically different than theirs. Just to put it in short, you ask like, hey man, like, why did you go to college? And I'll ask just as a quick ancillary question to the three of you all in a second, like, why did you go? And my short and quick answer was like, I'm a nerd and I thrive on learning and I love learning. And I thought like high school was bullshit and didn't teach me shit and was a bunch of information that I thought was propagandist. And I was like, here's an opportunity to really dive deep, to really study, to learn and think and do in a way that I think I'm actually excited about. And, as I talk to friends that are like, I went to UT and I spent most of the time freaking playing video games. And I was like, that's what you did? Because holy shit, all I remember at Stanford was the stress of the trimester system. And it was just reading and writing. And like,
I was trimester too, man. I did. And I was definitely on quarter system.
Yeah.
Yo, and it was nuts, right? Like it kept you stressed out to shit.
Yeah, you got to.
Because there was no rest. You jumped in. It's like, oh shit, midterms are in like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
like,
we had trimesters also at UCSD. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it's a stressful situation. So I just want to
get if you blink, you're falling behind.
Oh no, 100%. If you blinked a week,
summer school is a whole. It's a whole. It's not truncated. It was a lot. Yeah.
So I want to give you guys just a second before we dive into the big questions. Just palate cleanser, man. Like, why'd you guys go to college? Like, we're talking about college today and the point of it and the relevancy. I'd love to just hear it. I'm sure our audience would love to hear, like, what was your impetus to go?
I'll go first. I went to college because it's a good question. Thinking back, my parents, didn't have access to higher education. My father graduated high school years after he should have with the GED program. My mom never finished, so they never had access to, the full breadth of like K-12 and no college. So the idea was like, they worked very hard to raise a family to get us to the point where we could take advantage of that. Right. And so we did, me, my sister and my brother did some college. My other sister did some college. We all moved into like professional careers. And so for me, it was about, making that like not leap, but like taking the next step. And that's what I did. And ever since, from the time that I walked in the door to San Diego Mesa College, which was a community college, to the time that I walked out of my graduate studies at Cal State East Bay and everything in between, including my time at University of California at San Diego, for the most part, college was a continuous experience of learning and at some points just like straight up like blowing my fucking mind,
Yeah.
with new information. I think primarily in the undergrad years, it was incredible. It was totally incredible, man. And I would trade it for nothing.
Yeah, man, I love that answer. I love that answer. What about the rest of y'all?
Let's see. I would say, well, right of refusal for our the matriarch of the show. You said go. It's up to you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would say. I mean, honestly, I was poor, and the lie that and what I believed, whether it was the truth or not, was without it, I would die. And again, you gotta understand, when I'm coming out of high school, I done already had a few friends die. I done had a few. It's kind of going. Nobody else in my family went to college. I had a few basketball scholarships. I was decent. I knew I wasn't going to the league, so I had a partial scholarship to Hawaii Pacific and Hawaii Chaminade, and then the best package was from a school in Idaho. And when I looked deeper, they only had all their black students just play sports. It was like less than like the 1%. It was just the whole athletic department. So I didn't do that. And I was having knee trouble, so I didn't want to go to Hawaii and something happens and then I'm on the hook for the rest of this stuff. So I did undergrad at Cal State Hayward, East Bay. I was so focused in school, so I had to pay for it. Like my parents weren't literate. I owe a lot of money now. This is another reason that this shit is happening, because I just got the letter from this administration. Stuff is starting back up July 1st with a lot less options, and they're going to be a lot more expensive. I kind of got played by both presidents because I was in the middle of Joe Biden's process, which you have to consolidate, which makes your bill even higher first,
Right.
before they can extinguish it. So I got caught in the middle of that. So and now Trump and his people are like, nah, we want all that and then some. But I wish I would have enjoyed it more. Like I took a full load. I did 20 units each quarter, summer included, because I had to do remedial classes. And then I worked work study at the library, and I worked at Bayfair Mall, David. I worked at Shoe Plus, the shoe store. And that was my life. I did that. I wanted to finish on time. I did that for 4 years. Worked those 2 jobs, work study, took over at least 20 units every time, and I finished. And then did grad school and all that stuff. But I went, and look, if it's a lie that helped me. I'm in a different position financially. It set me on course. It made me focus on some things, and I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for it. But I did not enjoy. I didn't feel like I could take semester at sea or do an exchange program. I didn't really go out and find a bunch of interns or build the networks. I was just so focused on getting done, getting the grades, being in position to get up out of there. So that's my why and how. It was a little long-winded, but it had context to it.
Understood. I mean, it's interesting. This is a great question. We didn't talk about college so much in my house, but it was also an expectation. It's very interesting. And I didn't really start hearing about it until maybe my junior year of high school, more so my senior year. Meadow, down. So I had a teacher. I think I told you guys this story, Dr. Steger. She slammed her door closed and was like, I'm going to teach you all how to do parenthetical documentation, because when you go to college, you're going to need, and she was the first teacher I actually heard mention that. She was my 12th grade English teacher. My older brother went to SUNY New Paltz, so he was already there, and he got into New Paltz through a program called EOP. I think I told you all that. And so I had a time in high school. That's a whole nother episode. But I was eligible to join that program as well. And so that's how I got in. So it was like an expectation. It was never like, are you going to take a break or work? Or it's like, yeah, you're going to go to college.
Yeah, it was like,
wasn't something that like my parents were like, yeah, they didn't really beat it into us, but also it was just like, yeah, we go to college. So I think I went because it was an unstated expectation. I saw my mom go back to school at the age of 37 with 3 kids. She was determined, so she went to get her degree in social work. So I think that also deposited something in me as well that shows like it's never too late, and it's something that, you know, it's desirable and noble. And then I took college for everything it was worth. Like undergrad, I did get to study abroad in France for 6 months. You know, I got to go to all the parties. I got to make sure I never had a Friday class. Right. And I graduated, you know, on time. I had mentors. So it was a really full experience for me that, and if I had to choose again, I'd do it all over again. I probably wouldn't change much. So
I can tell you some stories in line with that. You want to know what we did? Because nobody in my family ever went to college. Me and my mom, me and my parents filled out my schedule, and they were trying to do this thing to get people to graduate. So you were part of these academies. So the first year they said if students stayed together, they had a better chances of graduating. Little black kids, little brown kids, right?
Yeah.
So but you're locked in. So I just say that to say we don't know nothing about college. Nobody went to college, so we made my schedule like it was a high school schedule. So I had classes Monday through Friday, 9 to 3. No, actually 7:30 to 3 because psychology, Psych 101 was a seminar. So that's like it's like 100 minutes or something. Like it was 150. It was a lot. And I was stuck for the full freshman year of yes. So what you don't know can absolutely hurt you or at least hamper your college going experience.
Yeah. Shout out to that dude named Mike Black. He was my mentor in my freshman year. He was a senior and he put me on to game. He's like, here's how you could go through 4 years and never have a Friday class. And so I feel for you. I'm sorry. I was in class, Charles.
Damn, Chuck. I'm sorry, brother, man.
I'm a doctor now. It's fine.
See?
Happy accident.
It paid off.
That's what's up, man. I think that the four of us share something, and including Bill, who's like, I went to college because I love school. There's something to that. And I want to, before we jump into the questions, just quickly say that right now is a weird time in terms of discussing college because it's such a humongous investment. And we're talking, guys, we're looking into this for my niece Alea. Columbia's asking $75,000 a year for undergrad. Like that's prohibitive, for Christ's sakes. Like that's
insane.
You know, I bought my house in El Paso for the price of 2 years in college. Like that is an insanity. And that's, I think, on that far end of the spectrum. Then, you know, I talk to friends that are like, I went to college and played video games and partied and shit. And I'm like, well, why'd you go to college? So you're just that kid who, you know, went through the motions, didn't really learn shit, and got yourself a degree because it looked good, because your parents expected you to it, but you didn't really get shit out of it. And I feel as if two things. One, my experience in college personally was one of just extraordinary excitement and learning. I'm just a nerd. So being able to learn, and, you know, people are like, what the hell, political science? What the hell are you going to do with that? History? What the hell are you going to do with that? Like, you're going to ask everybody to what kind of mustard or dressing they want on their French fries on their way on a ski trip with those degrees. And I got to tell you, it's funny because I've done nonstop thinking about that experience in college. And I'll tell you what I learned. I learned how to think. I learned how to speak, and I learned how to write, and I learned how to read, and I learned how to dissect information. And I got to tell you, neurologically, I probably grew exponentially as a result of that time. I know I did grow exponentially as a result of that time, where many of my friends, I think, had like radical recidivism. And as I look at Gen Z and that decline cognitively that they're having, and that amount of decline that's occurring because of too much time on screens and whatever it may be, it makes me rethink those 4 years in college, not my experience, because I would do it all over again, but makes me rethink about why kids should go. And I think one is the ability to read, write, learn, and think. And that, I think, is becoming a lost art in this world. And is college the place to do it? It was for me, but especially for young Black and brown kids, it was a massive kind of eye-opening experience into this world and this country and how this country operates. That, I think, was of extraordinary levels of worth, because we live in insulated little communities. And when you get out to these places, you're like, oh shit, this is how the world works. This is how networks happen, how kind of having to be in the room makes a ton of sense. Are we excluding our Black and brown kids from those very special relationships and rooms as a result? And that opens up question number one to the team. So when a college closes, who bears the greatest burden? You know, what happens to our Black and brown kids, our first generation kids, our low income kids? Like, when I ask who bears the burden, I'm not asking about the college. What happens to these kids who spent it all to get into this place, and then all of a sudden it just kind of collapses in front of them?
Yeah, I think I mean, one, the numbers are already down for Black males. Already down. Oh, and also, if Cass is acting up in the in YouTube, I will block you. So whoever Save America is, get your shit off, because as soon as I get my hand back on the thing, you up out of here. But I think, listen, I think college is still, if you look at the numbers, it's still one of the best determinants of like changing your position from being in poverty to not being in poverty. It's still like the amount of more money that you will make. It's still documented, even though that gap is somewhat closing. I think college does itself no favors by watering down the product. I think when you tie that in with the rising cost, the things are going up and more things are going away, including quality. I also think, and I Omar, you can stab me for this one. If I could do it again, I would. Poli-sci would be a minor. I would not major liberal art. If I had a child and I had to pay for that child to go to school, I need you to engineering, bro. It's something STEM. It's something that you can only get here. Because my dumb ass, who also didn't know how to build a schedule, I thought I had to do poli-sci to go to law school. You can major in whatever you want if you can pass the LSAT, you know. And you can take some other classes, you know, for your prereqs. I say that to say it's still an option that a lot of families will need, and I'm still a proponent of college. I think that we're in an overcorrection of a pendulum, but I think it will swing back. I think it is where we have to have a free college system, man, to allow for discourse in this country. But we're also becoming a less literate society. I just did a big show on that on Color Commentary, and it's getting a lot of comments. So that's my nuanced answer, Omar, where it still value it. I think that we have to be more educated when we go in. I needed to be, in my case. I don't want to speak for other people, but shit closes, Omar. Like, I didn't know hospitals closed until I got on the hospital board. The hospital I was born in just closed a few years ago, you know, and churches close, you know, if they ain't got the people. It ain't just schools, and universities close when it's so expensive and you still paying people even less, and you can't, and even the good professors you got, you losing because now they're afraid to be themselves and to challenge you in this new climate without being called some kind of name or being disgraced. It's just a perfect storm for this shit to start going away. So yeah, that's my long-winded answer.
How do you two feel?
Well, I'm here thinking about whether or not we're being as responsive as we need to be. I agree with Charles. Like, yes, things close. If you're not meeting the need of the community, you know, that you were designed to serve for whatever reason, or responsive, then you're going to lose the interest. You're going to lose the stakeholders. You're going to lose money, and then you got to close. So I think that's the facts of life. But I think that we've had data. We've had enough data over the past at least 10 years to know that this was coming down the pike, if not more. We knew this generation, was going to be different. We knew that these were the kids born with, they came out the womb with the iPad and possibly a Neuralink. So what exactly are we doing, in terms of how we are educating them that is going to increase the demand and draw them into these institutions when I can go on YouTube, right? Or I can do some kind of fast track class, or, so that's my question is like, how responsive are we really being? Are we looking at the data to say, you know what, we need to offer more classes on this, because this is what Black young men are interested in, right? And then also we've got data around just their personalities and social skills, right? This generation, so if my microwave doesn't work, I'm not going to die. You want to know why? Because I know how to turn on the stove and heat up food on the stovetop, right? Right. If there's not cooked food, I can go in, put some ingredients together and put something together and cook a meal. Right. And of course, I'm going to teach my sons to do that. However, that's not something that's innate, because they'll be like, there's no food in the house, or man, the microwave doesn't work. What are we going to do? And so, again, this is the generation we're working with. Delayed gratification is not a thing for them, right? Because along with going to college and just loving the idea of learning and reading and all of that, you need the other skill sets to be successful in college. You need to know how to negotiate. You need to have a level of discipline. You need to know how to, represent yourself and get a point across. You need to know how to show up at registrar office and go to the financial aid office. There's all these other pieces that you need to learn how to navigate in order to be successful in college that have nothing to do with the classroom, right? And so I think our generation was prepared for that. I think we had a lot more just responsibility to carry a heavier load and to be like, hey, figure it out, do it. So-and-so did it. We climbed 15 mountains to go to school. My parents are West Indian, so how I got to school stories are very
yeah, man. I love those stories
and
too.
I had to get a horse and it took me 4 days to get to school, whatever their stories were, right? So that's who raised me. And so I think this generation, there's a gap there. And so you telling me I got to wait for 4 years to learn something that I don't care about, where I can learn it on YouTube in 10 hours and get some kind of fake certificate and possibly go somewhere and make some money, which is really my goal. I just want to make money and know how to do something. How does college fare, as it relates to that? It's not a comparison, and therefore I'm not interested, and therefore I'm not going.
Wow. I've got some thoughts on that one.
Did David hop in there?
I mean, yeah, I'll just say, I think I've been thinking about this lately, because we've got
you at that
10th
age,
grader
you
who
and
just
you
graduated. Now he's going to be a junior in the house, right? And still talking about college, but also I think there's a couple of aspects here. I think primarily for our son, for Micah, as a young adult growing into the world, especially in this time with so much going on about race and what does it mean to be a citizen of the United States of America? What is my place in it? As a young, Mexican American, I think you have to have the background, the academic background, the kind of liberal studies background to do the critical thinking work that's going to equip you for navigating whatever changes come, in the next 40 to 50 to 60 years, because they're going to come, right? We're going to go through another crazy, tumultuous political upheaval. And the only way you can navigate it is if you can step back and kind of analyze it at a meta level. And the only way you can do that is if you're equipped with some educational tools, if you've studied, right, history. And so there's that. I think there's still tremendous value in that. And then also looking at say the job market, right? Like the changing, shifting job market, which is very unpredictable, especially with AI. Um, I'm like, go out and also learn like a trade, learn a hard skill, right?
Kind of what
Something that AI can't do, right?
Right.
And I don't know, maybe that's something that you learn through the military or through an apprenticeship program. Become an electrician, become an engineer, become a plumber, become whatever it is, right? Learn a hard skill. So I think for young people now entering into the workforce, I still think college is definitely, at least in our home, part of the equation. But it's also like being more strategic about it. Like those, just don't go and study, art or music or biology or whatever it is. You have to kind of follow this like dual strategy now of like essentially like a left brain, right brain strategy, right? So
yeah, I like
I
a
agree.
lot about where your head's at in terms of like, look, it's a tough world, and the shit of it is, guys, and like this is a little.
and you're giving advice to your students, dude, that are
yeah,
like
tons of it.
graduating, and it's like, yeah.
Well, for me, I always feel like, and I'm a little bit like on the doc side and your side, and little. I mean, it ain't all about the money, Jubilee. God dang. And I get it, man. We got to get ourselves out of poverty and shit. But for me and the students of EPLA, I think if I could give them two things, it's one, you've got to learn how to think, work in groups, have that creative problem solving and critical thinking, because you don't know what's going to happen. So I got into it bad with someone in El Paso. This is years ago. And a very rich, powerful, influential dude, I'll refrain from names. And this gentleman was like, every kid needs to code. You need to put your kids in coding. Every kid needs to go through computer science and get this stuff done. And that's an inevitability. And that's the future. And this is what needs to do. And like, no offense to this gentleman. He is a very ambitious man. He opened up a lot of fast food restaurants in El Paso. So thank you for giving our entire community diabetes, sir. But I got into it with him and I'm like, look, dude, like that's short-sighted. And he's like, and I get this a lot in El Paso without like, just by opening my mouth, just by showing up into the room. It's a lot of like, F you Harvard kid, F you Stanford kid. You think you're so great. You think you're so tough. You think you're so big. And I'm like, not only any of those things, you clearly have a massive chip on your shoulder and an insecurity, but these are the things that I learned from these very prestigious places, because I'm with the world's richest people, and what they wanted wasn't just the technical skill set. They needed to learn how to navigate a very difficult, adaptive, and ever-changing world. This goes back to EPLA. I'm like, kids, you need both, because what I told that gentleman is like, coding's fucking dead, bro. Like, I went to Stanford. You don't think that I have a grip on what the hell is going on technologically speaking in this world? We are 30 years behind in the knowledge of what those people know and what is going to be. And I can guarantee you, if all you know how to do is code, that is going to be obsolete. And I said 10 years, and it took 5. And what I'm saying is that, yes, technical skill is important. So what we're doing at EPLA, like, and I'm actually kind of like wanting to step my foot into it myself. I'm like, shit, I want to learn how to do a plumbing job. I want to learn how to do an electrician job. Not only that,
toilets break every day. It's $300 just to come look. Ask the homeowners in this chat right now. Okay, like
exactly.
It's $300 just to come look before you do anything.
Straight up, man. And like, I don't know, until the technology shifts radically for electricity and for plumbing, I think those jobs are extraordinary, because it doesn't just teach you how to fix those things. It kind of gives you an idea how to fix everything.
A blueprint.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's
Blueprint.
Badass. And I think if you can match the technical component, which is, don't just learn how to do this, learn how to fix all the things, and then combine that, here's skill sets that will be useful in any line of profession in the future, which is the thinking, I think that's the match made in heaven. Now, this bodes to question 2, which is my worry. A lot of these small universities that we were talking about on the show that are getting shut down, man, they specialize in this critical thinking. They specialize in this navigation of complexity of the world. And they can because you're in a small place where you can get a lot of specialized support. So, quick example. I got into a place called Swarthmore College. Amazing college out on the East Coast, outside of Philadelphia, small liberal arts college. Man, there was 350 kids in that freshman class. And I was like, holy shit, man. Like, there were more kids in my freshman class in high school than in that. And actually, there were more kids in my freshman class in high school than the entirety of the college combined. I think it was like 700 and something kids. It's like, that is a personalized experience. You're like one-on-one with these professors. The dive is huge. And I want to think about that with these small colleges and ask the question, that could be a very important place for our Black and brown kids. And I wonder.
Kicked off Toya again, Omar.
Yeah, I saw that, man. And
but
I gotta tell. I'm sorry that
it might have been me. It might have been one of us. I just haven't said nothing in a while. But I don't know.
And I gotta say that, like, I want her grandkids really to learn, but I also want to respect the fact that, like, this is a show for adults as well. Like, maybe we're too sensitive about the words that we're using.
You're fine. I actually didn't hear you say anything.
I don't care.
We love you too.
Anyways, back to the topic. These small colleges are very relationship based, and those are incredible for students that are marginalized. So what happens to our Black and brown kids when their only option is going to these big ass universities where they're 1 in 50,000 kids or 1 in 35,000 kids? Like, I don't know, man. Like, y'all have been to a bunch of these big places. Like, what happens?
Well, I mean, I went to Cal State Hayward isn't very big. I mean, what is it? Mid-level, maybe mid-level, small. Probably be a D3 school, maybe if it was in sports, D2. So, I mean, look, economics of this stuff, man. Like, these things are expensive to run and to have. And I think, again, I get what you're saying. I hear you about Swarthmore, but it's also like, like you said, small liberal arts college that's pretty expensive. Nothing's really promised. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are some Black and brown kids that go there, but you went to that school. There was a lot of rich kids that went there. There's a lot of rich, folks that went there as well that got that's gonna have some bread. So I get it, man. I think that, but like any market, there has to be adjustments, and I think, are we losing educational models that serve? I mean, if I could pick, I would have loved. I don't know why I didn't apply to UK. To Kentucky is my favorite school. I'd root for them and everything. I don't know. I was just in my head about it or whatever, but I regret not going to a bigger school. I regret not being a part of March Madness and not having, those experiences are different, but my state school did what it needed to do. I think you need these options of like community college, entry-level state schools that kind of are catch-all for people, and then these higher institutions that are the bigger public universities and the bigger and the privates. You know what I mean? I think you need that ecosystem. But again, that ecosystem been kind of scamming people for the last 15, 20 years.
Man, it's a tough bargain, right?
Anytime somebody tells me they got to design their major, I'm like, yeah, you ain't got no real skill. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I think, and partially, like, again, I wish somebody would have educated me. This is why I said, I think med school, I think law school, but in the undergrad experience, that's why I said engineering, because it teaches you how to think. I think if you have an engineering degree, you can do almost anything because you're learning how to deconstruct, and it's not as much about how you feel and what you think. I think small liberal arts schools do a lot to around how people feel as opposed to the hard skills. I do think it's important, but I think you got to be able to see people, man. I mean, we also have to place in time. Did y'all ever think we'd be at the time where UC Berkeley is not booking people because students are sad about the person coming? Like it's UC Berkeley. Like it's supposed to be, you know what I'm saying? Like
I know what you're saying.
You know, so I just think we're in a time where we're not. Are you still pushing young people beyond their limits and to think and to that things don't work for you and they have to fail? Like you gotta do hard things so you can build up the calluses of when you fail and come back better. And I don't know if all those schools are doing that. That's why NYU and MIT are losing these great professors, because they like, bruh, I can't change chemistry for you, dog. I don't know what to you can't put those things together. It just doesn't work. So I don't know, man. David, Jube, I'll stop there. I'm just curious what y'all think, because I'm not super confident in it, but we got to call it out. It's both. I think it's a problem on both sides of this topic.
I definitely was able to. I think most of my college experience, undergrad and then some post undergrad, was still spent in that time where I could tell it was still had a liberal leaning to it, but not till the very end when I was in my my admin educational leadership training at Cal State East Bay. Did it really start to get full on, I wouldn't say full on leftist, but it was just ridiculous. Some of the things that the professors would say, assuming that we were all Obama supporters and just all these assumptions. I was like, what? Am I paying for this indoctrination? I might be an Obama supporter. I might not, but that's not what I'm paying you for. So fortunately I was able to avoid most of that. And I think we need to get back to the time where we need to get back to a place where, and I don't know if it's going to happen. It seems like things are scaling back, and it's also happening in a very ugly way. By people being threatened to take away funding and this and that, whatever. But I really think when we say critical thinking, we're talking looking at issues from multiple viewpoints, right? And being able to express viewpoints in a way that might make people feel uncomfortable, but honoring and respecting people's where they come from, their viewpoints, and what Omar said, it's the ability to be able to have a critical debate and know when it's okay, it's time to back off, because you're going to take those skills into the workplace, right? Into your social world. And if you don't have that training, you're going to be that person that goes out there and has an opinion about everything and is not able to listen to other people's opinions and viewpoints. And you don't want to be that person, right? That's kind of where we are now. It's this, people have you're either, it's binary thinking, dude. Is toxicity.
Yes. And I got to tell you, that's such a good point, because I honestly think Bill would be screaming from the mountaintops about that right now, which is just the simple fact that the lack of critical thinking is a massive detriment to democracy. And I actually think it's done on purpose. I think that the detriment to critical thinking is done on purpose.
That's it.
In order to subjugate them. And this is why I'm so adamant about I know it doesn't have to be college for so many of our kids to develop these skill sets, but God, do I wish that every single one of our kids could have that experience to develop that skill set and develop themselves in a way where they can see through all the BS. Which leads us to man, we have time, so we can't even get to question 3. We're pretty much at closing. You can either go with any kind of closing discussion you want, or answer question 3, which is, What should educational justice look like during this wave of college closures?
Ugh.
Well,
yeah, that's what I like, dude. We're practicing critical thinking right here on the South Star classroom, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Did you hear that? It was like me being a professor in a college classroom, and the groans from the audience are like, I don't want to do that thinking. I don't want. That's a tough lift, Mr.
man.
Professor Yanar.
I would say, oh, go ahead. No, sis, go ahead. Sis is first.
Thank you. The word that keeps coming to mind is just resilience. Like we see over time, systems change, resilience and agency, I'll say, because I think we are responsible for ensuring that we teach our young people how to be resilient regardless of the system that they're in. I think that's the only thing that has worked for us, because there's no guarantee that you're going to get a culturally competent professor. There's no guarantee that the school you're going to go to is going to have a BSU or an LSU, or right. So yeah, you've got to do both, right? Study and prove your worth that way, but also know how to build community. Also know how to study. Also know how to advocate for yourself. And I think that starts at home. And honestly, it really should be in the across the K-12 continuum. Sadly, we know that it's not. I mean, it shouldn't be the first time that you're engaging with that when you get to college. But I think that's what really is sticking out for me. Just the need for us to, from generation to generation, continue to pass on the need for them to be resilient, persevere, and have agency. Because when they decided they're going to swap out this system, this school's going to close down or what have you, what's left. And our children need to know how to navigate these systems regardless and still come out on the other side. So those are my thoughts.
Ooh.
Well said, sister.
I would say I do not envy people that are running schools now, especially at the high school level, because these are very complex like questions, especially for if you're working with low income like first generation Black and brown families and white families too. How to engage around this conversation about like college or no college, right? So I would say on that front, like if I were running a school or a network of schools or even a school district, I would double down on efforts to engage with families and with students early on, well before their senior year when they're applying to colleges, to learn from them. Like what questions do they have? What hopes do they have? What aspirations do they have? What are the technical questions that they have around, post K-12, around community college, around going directly into the workforce, around, civil service, around military, because that's ultimately who you're serving, right? And then you take that information, you come back and you present that research back to them, right? So you're on track with what your community is, the conversation with your community. I think number one. I think number two, I don't have any advice for like educational systems post K-12 that are facing closure or mergers. It's happening. We focused most of our time here on this show in the K-12 space, but I do know, I don't know if you've heard, Charles, but in Oakland, they're looking at like fast tracking a consolidation between two of the flagship community colleges, Laney and Merritt, and turning them into, that's happening right now, right? And so it's a cost cutting.
Peralta, they're a part of Peralta.
Yeah, but they're looking at like folding, but they're still two colleges. They're looking at turning them into one, right? And so it's happening. It's happening all over the place with private universities. The larger universities are probably not facing it that much, but it's definitely happening. And so, that's a tough spot to be in too. But we're clearly seeing it in the K-12 space too. I mean, it's like some of my clients in Oakland, it's insane. It's like some of the charter schools that were once like bursting at the seams are like down to like 100 kids, 200 kids. Like, man, where did all the kids go? Like, where are the children?
Well, when you swap out the black people and the poor people, and you bring in new people, you bring in new black, but those don't have kids and all that, then that's kind of where, where it goes.
Yeah,
I think,
complex, man.
Right. I think I agree with everybody said, man. I think the market does still kind of speak, and there's something wrong in the marketplace. And I think that you probably shouldn't be called sexist if you're like, hey, y'all, you were mad that less and less males, especially of color, are going, and when there's arguments about the feminization of education, you can't just dismiss those, those claims as being sexist or whatnot, right? Like when people feel like they don't belong in something that used to be a place where you could thrive and learn and make mistakes. Like again, colleges is where you go to make mistakes. Like you're supposed to be a little arrogant. You're supposed to be a little, I know everything, and then life kind of hits you. You got to do hard things. I think in that same vein, I think a lot of those boys are becoming more attracted to the military. And to be frank, you can go to the military and become a great lawyer. You can be a JAG. You go to the services and become a surgeon. And I mean, armed forces education is kind of killing. It's kind of doing well compared to a lot of the other. I mean, it's the strongest K-12 public education system in the country by far. Is because they have everything. How do you say it, David? When everything is kind of the same and on par because these people move and are so transient. So I don't know the terminology. My brain is kind of falling there. Like I said, and we have to value these things. I just did a whole conversation. Jay-Z just had this freestyle, and people can choose to not like it. But what I was hearing people say was, why is it so complex? Can he dumb it down? And that's the literacy thing. Yeah. Like it was too literate. It was too many words. And I made a point, I know 40-year-olds, man, I text them, there's one thing when people text, they just text in shorthand. There's another thing when you can tell when grown people don't know the difference between there, and there. And literacy is slowly becoming a class issue. It really is. And I hate to see that. And so something has to interrupt this. I think these colleges need a shot in the arm, and they got to get exciting again. I think you also need the propaganda back. So when I was a kid, A Different World came on, and it made college one of the coolest places. Like I wanted to be there. I wanted to, where'd the Cosby Kid go? What's this Hillman College? Like, oh, Jada Pinkett goes to this school. I want to go there. I want to be Dwayne Wade. And they're rebooting the show. I don't think it's going to be as good. I think it's going to be on some bullshit. But the point that I'm making is as a zeitgeist, the zeitgeist doesn't respect universities anymore. And on top of a product that's becoming worse, Omar, like it's still going up and up and up. It's
the prices shit. Yeah.
Like if I got 75 grand, man, I can take you through Europe or Africa, and we can set up some stuff, or I can be like, David, where does he go here? Or like, and I also just think that they should get smart and start combining vocation with these things. Like you should be able to leave with like some actual skill sets. I don't know why we've created this binary that is either intellectual or vocational.
Exactly.
I think that's crazy. Yeah. I think it's crazy. Yeah. I think I told y'all about my neighbor falling. I think I told y'all Miss Helen fell, right? Like, but she's in a hospital. She should be coming home soon. But at 80, like she's so spry. Like aside from her, like she can do so much stuff, but she's also well thought out. She reads the newspaper. She wants to read a newspaper. She likes to read books, and she wants to keep her mind active. And I think sometimes you gotta build and destroy, and so something new can rise up. I just hope this new thing serves the needs that we got that's coming up, because I'm a little nervous about where we're heading.
Yeah. I am as well. And I'll be very short, and I'll just kind of fly off of a quick comment that you made, which is the price is going up exponentially, but the zeitgeist is shifting the mentality on college. I got to tell you, like, I don't necessarily like that. Now, I don't disagree with the fact that it is insanity to me to not have a college celebrate freedom of thought. You should have contrasting views everywhere. You should have contrasting speakers everywhere. I mean, it was a sound moment in a perfect moment, like Ice-T came to speak at Stanford, and it was badass. Eric, my brother-in-law, was talking about it. He went to school there, and there was a very controversial moment where he said something derogatory towards a female who was being very derogatory towards him. And he made this like ludicrously astute comment. And he's like, you're going to get angry at my freedom of speech when you decided to get up and exercise yours.
Mm.
Like, that is what I'm talking about. That is why you're a child and I'm a man, because you need to learn that there are difference of opinions, and that those difference of opinions and finding out why people believe them will lead to enlightenment. That's fucking Ice-T. Like, that is an extraordinary comment, but in one moment, one capsulation brings up like why I think college can be such a phenomenal experience, and why I think that the zeitgeist is going against it. Because yes, there's too much liberalism. Yes, the freedom of speech thing needs to be like very much figured out. Yes, UT needs to stop arresting kids for protesting peacefully. But at the other time, the zeitgeist needs to stop demonizing a place that's usually predicated on free thinking. And I think it's being done on purpose, because free thinking is scaring the shit out of this country, and that scares me.
Yeah.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are the South Star Classroom. We will be here next week, same bad time and channel, with all things educational, all things controversial. I'm your co-host, Amir Anar, on behalf of David Castillo, the Beard of Knowledge, the real Dr. Charles Court, the Queen, Jubilee Ransom. We wish you love and peace.
My thing's not working.
Peace out.
Only my heart.